Hello everyone, welcome to our today's GitHub tutorial. Today we're going to see how to use GitHub and how to make a remote repo first, clone it to our local computer. So GitHub is very useful tool. It's a version control, Git and GitHub. And it is also the developer's portfolio, very useful tool if you want to get a job in software development industry. So I'm going to follow a set of instructions to do the job, which I am going to share below this video. And you can follow along when you see it at your home. So very first instruction to use GitHub, and I'm assuming you already know terminal and command line uses. It says go to GitHub account and create a GitHub repo. So in order to go to a GitHub account, you first have to go and write, for instance, github.com. It will bring you to this page. I'm already logged in. If you're not logged in, you can go ahead and log in first. Then once you are logged in, you'll see your home page of GitHub like that. In order to create a GitHub account, go ahead and click this plus sign here. Then as you can see, it says new repository. That's what you want to click in order to create a GitHub repo. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new GitHub repo. I can name it anything. For instance, if I name it Twitter, let's say I'm the inventor of Twitter, right? So I'm writing Twitter, then making it public or private based on your choice. I'm keeping it public for now. And if you click create repo, it's working, and then you can see that it says the GitHub repo Twitter is already got created. Now remember, this has got created in the browser, in the github.com platform. It's nothing to do with your local computer, right? It's in the cloud. Now, the second step, if you follow, it says from the GitHub repo, copy repos HTTP link. Now, here you can see once you create an empty repo, here is an HTTP and SSH link. So you can go ahead and HTTPS link. You can simply click it here to copy it. Once you click it, go ahead and follow the third step, which says go to terminal, the directory where you want to set your local Git repo. Write git clone, then paste in HTTP link. The red lines are GitHub command, git command, so you have to follow as it is. Nothing could be changed. So I'm going to open my terminal. By the way, I'm using Mac, but if any of you are using Windows, the command should be almost the same. So the Mac computer, first I have to select in my desktop where exactly I decide to save this remote git repo, meaning cloning it, right? So pwd, it says that pwd, it shows that I am not in desktop, so I'll go to desktop by cd desktop and pwd. So I'm in desktop, right? That's where I want to create my clone, my remote repo. So command I will write is git clone, then pasting the link. I just copied from here, right? So if I write git clone, then pasting the link, enter, and it's doing something. It's saying that this is an empty repo, which is fine because it is empty, I know that. And now I can go ahead and in my desktop, if I try to check if anything got created, here, as you can see, Twitter. So this is an empty repo, like nothing inside of it, as expected, because this is a clone of remote repo here, which is empty, by the way, right? So what I did as of now, first I created a remote GitHub repo in github.com. Then using terminal, I cloned that remote repo into my local machine so that anything gets built inside. I can then just push it to the remote repo, and the code should be saved there. So I can go ahead and follow my next step, which is you can see the folder downloaded in the desktop. I could see that. Number 5, create a file in the local Git repo. So the local Git repo, the folder I just cloned or downloaded, I'll go ahead here in my terminal, and I'm going to go inside of that repo, cd Twitter, pwd. You can see that desktop, then Twitter. I'm inside of the repo. Then in order to create a file, let's say touch index.html. If I write it, then do ls, I can see that inside of this Twitter folder or Twitter directory, I have this index.html. File gets created. All right, so you can also check that here. So if you click it, you can see index.html file is inside of this Twitter folder. Now, the next thing for me would be, as you can see, it says create a file inside of the local repo. So I can go ahead and now open my text editor. I'm using Sublime Text. Feel free to any text editor of your choice. Then inside of this text editor, I'm dragging the directory here, standard procedure, opening index.html file, writing a sample line of code. Right? So I'm just writing this is my website. All right. So if I do that, that means that I have changed my local repo here, right? If you go in your github.com repo, you can see nothing gets changed there, right? But my job from GitHub is to keep this remote repo same as the local repo. So then what I have to do, which is step number 6, it says write git status to see the git repo. All right, so I'm going ahead and writing git status. If I do that, you can see it says that untracked file index.html, and it's red. Nothing is red is good. So what does it mean is after I had this cloned empty repo, I created an index.html file which is not tracked yet. So then I have to track it by writing git add hyphen number 7. So I'm going ahead and writing git add space period enter. And if I do git status now, you can see if I do git status now, it's not red anymore, right? So before it was red. Now after you write git status, it says, it doesn't say any untracked file anymore here, which is good. But it does say no commits yet. That means that I added stuff, but I didn't commit yet. So I'm going to go ahead and follow my steps, which is number 8, once added. So I'm adding my changes. Then I have to commit by writing this command, which is git commit. -n, then you have to make a comment on what are the changes you are making. So I'm clearing my screen, clear. Now I have to commit by writing git commit -m. Within the quotation mark, I'm writing, so this comment can be anything, just to identify what changes you made. So added a h1 tag, similar to that. Okay, so now it's saying that one file changed, one insertion, which is good. Now, it's still now, if you go to your GitHub, refresh the page, you can see no changes has made, right? That means that your local GitHub repo looks very different than your remote GitHub repo. Your remote GitHub repo has 2 changes. One is first, index.html file got created. It's not here in the remote. Second, you have a line of code. It's not even here. right, in the remote. So there are some differences. The next job for us to push all the changes that we first created, then added, then committed. Now we have to push all these changes in our remote repo simply by writing git push. All right. So in my terminal, I'm writing git push, enter, waiting. Something is happening. Okay. It's still happening. All right. So it's saying that it's writing object 100% done. This is the space it took and everything. So I'm all good. Now, since I didn't get an error and I pushed all my chains, push to where? Push to GitHub, the remote repo. From my local repo, I can go ahead and refresh my page. If I do that, yeah, you can see that index.html file gets created, which is expected, right? Because you have index.html file in your local repo. Then if you click this file here, you can see that this is my website h1, and that was the change that you made, right? Which is in your local repo. That's the change you have. Now that's reflected in your remote repo. All right, all good. So this is all you have to do in order to make changes, commit change, add those changes, commit those changes, and finally push those changes, right? Now, what I have to do if I am writing another line of the code, right? So I'm writing an h2 and I'm saying that this is a second line of code, right? So if I do that, I save my changes. Now if I go back to GitHub chain, refresh the page, it has only one line, right? It doesn't get reflected by my second line because anytime you make any changes in your GitHub local repo, you always have to do this 3-step again, which is adding, committing, and pushing. So number 7, number 8, number 9, adding, committing, and pushing. So I'm going to go ahead and do that by writing first adding git add space hyphen enter. Okay, it's added, then committing git commit, then writing adding second line. Okay, good, then git push. Okay, so looks is getting there. All right, so now if I go ahead and refresh my page, second line also gets added. Okay, so that's how you can keep your local file and the remote file, local repo and the remote repo similar by writing this command. Okay. Now, the second thing we want to learn today is, so I can use GitHub. I can, if I now lose my computer or lose my directory, I can still I can download my directory from github.com anytime, any computer, which is good. Another benefit GitHub has is you can also host your website with GitHub, which is a great feature. Now, in order to, in next couple of minutes, we're going to show how can you host your GitHub repo into server by using GS pages, right? So in order to host, first you have to create a GS pages branch. And this is the command, right? Git branch GS pages. So I'm going back to my terminal. I'm clearing the screen. By the way, clearing doesn't mean that all the comments gone. It just means that they reside on top, right? By clearing, you're just clearing in front of you. So first, I'm creating a GH branches page, git branch, then name of the branch, sorry. And the name of the branch should be gh-pages. All right. Then you can just actually push it. So the next command would be git push origin GS pages. All right. So if you write git push origin GS pages, all right. So it's pushing now. And in your github.com page, now if you refresh your page, you can see branch, right? So by default it's master branch, but if you click here, you can see GS pages branch as well. So if you click here, this is your GS pages branch. Okay, so GS pages branch, you have 2 lines of the code. Master branch, you have this 2 lines of the code, which is great. But remember, creating the GS pages branch has a special purpose, which is we want to host our website. Now, in order to see if your website is hosted, you have to write the username of your GitHub, which is, for me, I'm writing my username, then .github, then instead of io, you have to write github. Instead of .com, you have to write github.io. Okay, then the name of the project, the name of this very project was Twitter, so I have to write /Twitter, enter. All right, so this 2 line, remember, is hosted. Now you can share this link like a website, okay, like facebook.com or google.com. This is the new URL. You can share this URL to anybody in the world. They can click the URL and they can get to your website. That easy. All right. Now that we know how to use GitHub in order to store our code in local and remote repo, keeping the same, and also ultimately hosting our website there, another challenge remains because your project keeps developed. Today you have this amount of pages and code. Tomorrow you're going to have some more. So how to keep these codes completed, or how to keep these changes reflected in the GitHub pages? That's the next thing we will be learning. So for instance, the next day you have another line of the code, okay, which is S3. This is the third line, okay. Now, anytime you make any changes in your local GitHub repo, which is the folder in your desktop that you downloaded from github.com, you already know 3 things needs to be done in order to get that reflected in your github.com, right? Because the third line is not here, even if you refresh the page. So first thing is adding, so git add, all right? Then second thing is committing, git commit -m, and then you can write whatever comment you want to make. Third line added, it's totally up to you. Then git push, and if you do git push, yeah, so now if you refresh the page, third line is here, great. But the thing is, now if you go to your hosted website, you refresh the page, right? The third line is not coming here. That is because, remember, the changes that you made reflects to your master branch. But here, what is hosted is your GS pages branch, right? That's why we created the GS pages branch. So if you go to your GS pages branch now, you can see there are only 2 lines. The third line is not here. That's why the third line doesn't get reflected here. Okay, so in order to get the third line in your GS pages branch, what do you have to do in your command line, and that's also here in the instruction, you can then use git rebase or git merge command, right? Then you can push that changes, and then it should get reflected. So first here, I'm clearing my page, and if you write git status, you can see that you are on the branch master. So first of all, go to the GS pages branch. So by writing git checkout GH pages, okay, it says switch to branch GS pages. So you are in GS pages branch, and you can also again write git status. If you do, you can see that on branch GS pages, right? So you are in GS pages branch. Then your job is to, hey, I have 2 branches in my GitHub repo. One is the master branch, Another one is GS Pages branch, and my master branch is little advanced because it has the little changes, latest changes. Let's say the H3, but in my GS Pages branch, I don't have H3. So I want to keep my GS Pages branch as up to date as master. So how can I do that? I can go here. Once I'm in my GS Pages branch, then I have to write this command git. You can either use rebase or merge. Merge is usually intelligent choice because it keeps your history, which is a different discussion. We can have that later. So you can go ahead and write git merge, then master. If you do that, it's saying updating. Okay, fine. First forward index and okay. One file change, two insertion, one deletion. Okay, all good. So now, once you merged all the changes in your GS Pages branch from the master branch, you can then push these changes by writing git push origin GS Pages. So go ahead and write git push origin GS Pages. If you do that, all right, so looks like it pushed. So if you go here and now if you refresh your page, the third line is added in the GS Pages branch. So it merged all the chains from the master to GS Pages branch. Now if you go here and then refresh your page, the third line is also here hosted, right? So that's how you can keep up to date all the changes from your master to your GS Pages branch. And if it is up to date in GS Pages branch, that should reflect in your hosted website as well. Okay, that's all. So I am making some summaries. So at the end, actually, you can again go back to your master branches because Git status will tell you that you are in the GS Pages branch. So in order to go to master, back to the master branch, you can just simply write git checkout master. Yeah, you are in master branch. So now, in summary, what we learned today is, first of all, we learned how to use GitHub, right? How to create a remote repo, number one. Then how to clone that remote repo into your local computer by using git clone here, right? Then we learned how, once I start building my website in my local repo, adding code, how can I get that reflected in my github.com or remote repo, which is by using these three commands, git add, git commit, and git push. So then we also learned how to use GS Pages branch, right? And the purpose of GS Pages branch is simply creating, hosting your website, which gives you an URL and you can share it to anybody and any website. Let's say this is a very simple line of the code, 1, 2, 3. But if you had a JavaScript here, a CSS here, it's a complete website that could also host. Remember, GitHub Pages branch only can host any static website or front-end based website. The website doesn't necessarily have any backend or database. That's important to know. So once you can host it, the third thing we also learned is how do we merge all our changes between GitHub branch to GS Pages branch. All right. So that is all for today. I hope you find it useful. If you find it useful, give it a like. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. Goodbye.